The problem is that no matter what year you get, it feels like it's from 1996. And that's just one of the reasons why this is the worst new car you can buy.
Not every car is destined to become a classic or a collector's item. In fact, many vehicles on the road today are already on their way to the scrap heap of history. By 2026, some cars will have lost nearly all their resale value, becoming more of a burden than an asset. High repair costs, outdated technology, poor reliability, and changing regulations are all factors that will crush the worth of certain vehicles. In this list, we'll take a close look at 10 cars that will likely be worth next to nothing in just a short time. Some of them may surprise you, while others have been sliding downhill for years. Whether you're looking to buy or already own one, it's good to know which cars are headed for rock-bottom value. Let's start with number 10. Number 10. Fiat 500L. When Fiat re-entered the US market in the early 2000s, it came in with promises of European charm and small car efficiency. The Fiat 500, a tiny hatchback, gained some popularity as a quirky city car. But the larger Fiat 500L, introduced as a family-friendly version, never found the same success. And for good reason. By 2026, these cars will likely be worth almost nothing. The Fiat 500L was marketed as a practical crossover-like alternative, but it quickly developed a reputation for being unreliable. Reports of transmission failures, electrical gremlins, and cheap interior materials sank consumer confidence. Even during its new car life, the 500L struggled to hold value, and now that they're aging, buyers are avoiding them altogether. Parts availability isn't great either, and repair costs can be surprisingly high for such a small car. That combination is a death sentence for resale value. Another issue is design. The Fiat 500L's tall, awkward proportions never caught on with American buyers. Compared to competitors like the Honda Fit or Toyota RAV4, the 500L lacked both style and substance. While some European buyers embraced it, US drivers saw it as cramped, underpowered, and not particularly fun to drive. Once initial novelty wore off, sales tanked. By 2026, depreciation will have fully run its course. Most examples on the used market will be extremely cheap, often selling for little more than scrap or parts value. Many owners will simply drive them until they break, then junk them rather than attempt costly repairs. Why will the Fiat 500L be worth nothing? Because it checks every box of a depreciation disaster: poor reliability, low demand, costly repairs, and no redeeming qualities that make buyers seek it out later. Unless someone develops a niche collector interest in oddball European imports, the 500L is destined to be a throwaway car. Number 9. Chrysler 200. The Chrysler 200 was supposed to be the sedan that revived Chrysler's reputation in the mid-size market. When it launched, it carried sleek looks and promised refinement. But under the surface, the 200 was a car destined to fall flat. By 2026, most Chrysler 200s will be scraping the bottom of the resale barrel, worth little more than a set of tires and a tank of gas. One of the biggest issues with the Chrysler 200 was its powertrain. Many models came equipped with the 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission. On paper, this setup should have provided smooth shifting and efficiency. In reality, the 9-speed transmission quickly gained a reputation for hesitation, jerky gear changes, and premature failures. Replacing or repairing it is expensive, often costing more than the car is worth once it's a few years old. That alone dooms the 200's long-term value. Interior quality was another weak point. While the exterior design was praised, the cabin often felt cramped for a mid-size sedan. Rear seat space was tight, materials were cheap in lower trims, and the sloping roofline sacrificed practicality. Competing cars like the Toyota Camry or Honda Accord offered more room, better reliability, and higher resale value, leaving the 200 with little to stand on. Then there's the brand perception. Chrysler as a whole has struggled to maintain a strong lineup, and the discontinuation of the 200 in 2017 sealed its fate. Once a car leaves production, parts and dealer support tend to shrink, which further reduces consumer confidence. Potential buyers know the model was abandoned, and that stigma makes resale value plummet. By 2026, most Chrysler 200s will be old enough to show major wear. Rust, worn suspensions, and failing electronics will be common, and owners will find little reason to sink money into repairs. Since demand is already minimal, values will drop to nearly nothing. Most will end up traded in for pennies or sold at auction for parts. Why will the Chrysler 200 be worth nothing? Because it combined poor engineering decisions with lackluster reliability, then lost all future support when it was discontinued. Without a fan base or collector appeal, it has nowhere to go but down. Number 8. Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet. Few cars in recent history have raised as many eyebrows as the Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet. Introduced in the early 2000s, it was an attempt to blend SUV practicality with convertible fun. What Nissan ended up with was a strange mashup that appealed to very few buyers, and the market has been punishing it ever since. By 2026, these unusual vehicles will be nearly worthless. The first problem with the Cross Cabriolet was its identity crisis. It wasn't a traditional SUV because the convertible top cut deeply into cargo space and eliminated the utility buyers expected. It wasn't a true convertible sports car either because it was heavy, awkwardly styled, and not particularly fun to drive. The result was a vehicle that didn't satisfy either group of buyers. Performance and reliability didn't help its case. The Murano Cross Cabriolet came with a 3.5-liter V6 engine and a continuously variable transmission, CVT. While the V6 was dependable, the CVT was not. Nissan's CVTs have long been criticized for premature failures, overheating, and costly replacement bills. With repair costs often exceeding the value of the vehicle, owners simply let them go once problems appeared. The convertible top also introduced complications. It was heavy, slow to operate, and prone to mechanical issues as the cars aged. Leaks were common, and when water found its way into the cabin, electrical problems followed. These expensive headaches made the Cross Cabriolet an unattractive choice for anyone concerned with long-term ownership. Depreciation was swift. Buyers who paid a premium for the novelty quickly discovered that resale value plummeted. By 2026, the few that remain on the road will have little to no market demand. Unless you find a niche collector who appreciates its oddball status, the Cross Cabriolet will struggle to sell for anything more than scrap value. Why will the Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet be worth nothing? Because it was a solution to a problem no one had. The car tried to be two things at once and failed at both. With reliability concerns, high maintenance costs, and little buyer interest, its future value is destined for the bottom of the barrel. Number 7. Mitsubishi Mirage. The Mitsubishi Mirage has long been marketed as one of the cheapest new cars you can buy. And while low upfront costs might make sense for budget-conscious buyers, they also guarantee that long-term resale value will be next to nothing. By 2026, the Mirage will be among the least valuable used cars on the market. The Mirage's main selling point has always been price, but that came at a cost: quality. With a 3-cylinder engine producing modest power, the Mirage struggles to keep up with highway traffic and feels underpowered compared to rivals. While fuel efficiency is good, the trade-off is a lack of refinement. Vibrations, road noise, and sluggish acceleration all add to an ownership experience that feels cheap, because it is. Reliability is mixed. While the engine itself isn't particularly fragile, the Mirage suffers from its use of continuously variable transmissions, CVTs, which have a history of premature failure and high replacement costs. Given that a CVT replacement can cost several $1,000s, it's not hard to see why owners won't bother investing that kind of money into a car worth only a few thousand in resale. The interior tells the same story. Hard plastics, minimal sound insulation, and basic technology make the Mirage feel outdated, even when new. Competing cars from Honda, Toyota, and Hyundai offered much better value with more comfort, stronger resale, and proven reliability. Buyers quickly realized that the Mirage's low initial price tag was offset by low long-term satisfaction. By 2026, most Mirages on the road will have aged poorly. Their interiors will show significant wear. Their drivetrains will be approaching major repairs, and their small size will make them less appealing in a used market that increasingly favors crossovers and SUVs. With plenty of better options available, used Mirages will be left behind, selling for rock-bottom prices or heading straight to auction lots. Why will the Mitsubishi Mirage be worth nothing? Because it was designed to be cheap, not to last. It lacks the qualities that keep cars desirable in the long run: comfort, durability, and strong brand reputation. By 2026, depreciation will have run its course, leaving the Mirage as one of the least valuable used cars you can own. Number 6. Cadillac ATS. When Cadillac launched the ATS in 2012, it was meant to compete directly with German sports sedans like the BMW 3 Series and Audi A4. On paper, it looked promising: a sharp chassis, modern styling, and a luxury badge. But in reality, the ATS struggled to live up to expectations. By 2026, most of these cars will have little to no value on the used market. One of the ATS's biggest problems was reliability. Cadillac offered several engines, including a 2.0-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder and a 3.6-liter V6. The turbo models were notorious for problems like turbocharger failures, oil consumption, and timing chain issues. Even the V6 models weren't immune to expensive repairs, with cooling system issues and electrical faults being common. These problems quickly erased buyer confidence. The transmissions didn't help either. Early ATS models were offered with 6-speed automatics, while later ones received 8-speed units. Both developed reputations for harsh shifting, hesitation, and in some cases, outright failure. Repairing or replacing these transmissions is costly, and given the ATS's rapid depreciation, many owners simply won't invest the money once trouble starts. Interior quality was another area where Cadillac fell short. While the ATS looked good at first glance, the materials didn't hold up over time. The CUE infotainment system, Cadillac's attempt at a cutting-edge touchscreen interface, became infamous for lag, glitches, and screen failures. Compared to the rock-solid interiors of Lexus or Audi rivals, the ATS aged poorly. Depreciation was steep from the start. Luxury sedans lose value quickly, but the ATS fell even faster because it lacked the reputation of its European competition. Buyers looking for a used sports sedan overwhelmingly chose BMW, Audi, or Lexus, leaving the ATS to languish on used car lots with bargain bin pricing. By 2026, the oldest ATS models will be over a decade old, and their weaknesses will be impossible to ignore. With reliability concerns, high repair bills, and little demand, resale values will bottom out. Many will be worth little more than scrap or auction prices. Why will the Cadillac ATS be worth nothing? Because it tried to compete in a tough market without delivering the long-term quality buyers expected. Rapid depreciation, unreliable components, and lack of desirability will make it one of the least valuable luxury sedans of its time. Number 5. Jaguar XF. Luxury sedans from Jaguar have always carried an air of prestige, but when it comes to long-term ownership, the XF has proven to be more headache than status symbol. By 2026, the Jaguar XF is expected to be worth next to nothing on the used market, largely due to reliability concerns, high repair costs, and brutal depreciation. The XF was introduced to compete with the likes of the BMW 5 Series and Mercedes-Benz E-Class. While it delivered sleek styling and strong performance, it couldn't match its rivals when it came to long-term durability. Engines ranged from turbocharged 4s to supercharged V6s and V8s, and while powerful, they were plagued by issues. Timing chain tensioner failures, oil leaks, and cooling system problems became all too common, leaving owners with hefty repair bills. Electronics were another sore spot. Jaguar's infotainment systems, sensors, and digital clusters often suffered glitches and outright failures. Electrical problems are notoriously difficult and expensive to fix, and once warranties expire, many owners abandon their XFs rather than pay thousands to chase gremlins. Then there's the cost of ownership. Even routine maintenance is pricey because Jaguar parts are both expensive and less readily available compared to German or Japanese rivals. Independent shops can sometimes help, but many repairs require dealer expertise, which drives costs up further. Buyers on the used market know this, and they steer clear, pushing values down even faster. Depreciation has always been harsh on Jaguars. The XF loses value at a much faster rate than a BMW or Mercedes, and by 2026, many early models will be worth only a fraction of their original sticker price. Combine that with their reputation for unreliability, and it's no surprise they'll be trading hands for pennies. Why will the Jaguar XF be worth nothing? Because luxury alone isn't enough to sustain value. Without long-term durability, affordable upkeep, or widespread demand, the XF ends up being a liability. By 2026, most owners will view it as a money pit, not an asset, leaving it among the least desirable used luxury sedans on the market. Number 4. Smart Fortwo. The Smart Fortwo was once marketed as the ultimate city car, promising unbeatable maneuverability and tiny parking space convenience. While it did capture attention when it first hit the market, its novelty quickly wore off. By 2026, the Smart Fortwo will be virtually worthless on the used market, as its weaknesses far outweigh its gimmicks. The Fortwo's biggest downfall is practicality, or rather, the lack of it. With seating for just 2 people, almost no cargo space, and limited highway performance, it failed to meet the needs of most drivers. For a commuter-only car, it seemed promising, but the reality was that buyers could get far more versatile and reliable vehicles for the same price. Competing compact cars like the Honda Fit or Toyota Yaris offered better space, better fuel economy, and much better resale. Performance is another weak point. The Fortwo's small 3-cylinder engine and quirky automated manual transmission left drivers frustrated. Acceleration was sluggish, gear changes were rough, and highway driving was often stressful. Even though it was built for cities, the lack of refinement and comfort hurt its appeal. By the time newer rivals with hybrid or electric options entered the market, the smart Fortwo already felt obsolete. Reliability also dragged the car down. Owners complained of electrical issues, fragile transmissions, and high repair costs relative to the car's value. Since Smart is no longer sold in the US, parts availability is shrinking, and finding a mechanic who knows the car well is becoming more difficult. These factors accelerate depreciation because potential buyers don't want to deal with the headaches. By 2026, most Smart Fortwos will have little to no demand. With their limited practicality, dwindling support, and poor resale reputation, they'll be hard to give away. Many will end up at auctions or scrapped outright as owners decide repairs aren't worth the cost. Why will the Smart Fortwo be worth nothing? Because it's a niche car that failed to deliver lasting value. It lacked practicality, struggled with reliability, and was abandoned by its own brand. Without a strong buyer base or collector appeal, its future on the used market is all but dead. Number 3. Dodge Dart. The Dodge Dart was introduced in 2013 with high hopes of reviving a once popular nameplate. Positioned as a compact sedan to compete with the Honda Civic and Toyota Corolla, the Dart seemed like a step forward for Dodge. Unfortunately, it ended up being one of the biggest misfires in the segment. By 2026, the Dart will be worth almost nothing, and its rapid fall in value is no accident. The first major problem was reliability. The Dart came with multiple engine options: a 2.0-liter 4-cylinder, a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder, and a 1.4-liter turbo. None of them earned praise for durability. The 1.4 turbo, borrowed from Fiat, was plagued by oil leaks, turbo failures, and cooling system issues. Even the naturally aspirated engines suffered from rough idle, poor fuel economy, and premature component wear. Coupled with weak automatic transmissions, the Dart quickly gained a reputation for mechanical headaches. Interior quality also left buyers disappointed. While Dodge promised a modern cabin, materials felt cheap, and the design didn't hold up well over time. Cabin noise, rattles, and poorly fitted trim pieces were common complaints. Compared to the polished interiors of Japanese competitors, the Dart looked and felt like a cost-cutting exercise. Another nail in the Dart's coffin was its discontinuation in 2016. Fiat Chrysler, now Stellantis, abandoned sedans altogether, leaving the Dart without long-term support. When an automaker pulls the plug so quickly, resale value inevitably tanks. Buyers know the car has no future, and dealerships stop carrying many parts. Independent mechanics can handle basic maintenance, but major repairs become harder and more expensive. Depreciation has been brutal from day one. Used car lots struggle to move them, even at bargain prices, because there are simply better options available. By 2026, most Dodge Darts will be aging poorly, with reliability issues piling up and market demand collapsing. Owners will often find that trading them in nets only a few $100s. Why will the Dodge Dart be worth nothing? Because it failed on every level. Weak engines, poor transmissions, cheap interiors, and no long-term factory support. Without strong resale demand or a loyal fan base, the Dart is destined to hit rock-bottom value within the next couple of years. Number 2. Lincoln MKT. The Lincoln MKT was supposed to be a luxury crossover that brought comfort and class to families. Instead, it became one of Lincoln's least loved models, and by 2026, it will be worth virtually nothing. The MKT's awkward styling, poor resale reputation, and high maintenance costs guarantee its place on this list. The first issue is design. The MKT borrowed heavily from Ford's platform, but tried to distinguish itself with unique styling. Unfortunately, its bulbous shape and oversized grille made it one of the least attractive vehicles in Lincoln's lineup. While buyers will sometimes overlook styling if the car delivers elsewhere, the MKT struggled to impress on performance and reliability too. Under the hood, the MKT offered V6 engines, including the twin-turbo EcoBoost. While powerful, these engines came with potential headaches. Turbo failures, cooling system problems, and expensive transmission repairs made ownership costly. The naturally aspirated V6 was somewhat more reliable, but it lacked refinement compared to luxury rivals. By the time major repairs became necessary, most owners found that the vehicle wasn't worth the investment. The interior was roomy, but it didn't age well. Electronics were particularly problematic, with sync infotainment glitches, failing touchscreens, and faulty sensors being common complaints. Add in failing air suspension components on some trims, and the MKT quickly became a money pit as it aged. Depreciation hit the MKT harder than most of its competitors. Luxury buyers who wanted a crossover had better options from Lexus, Acura, and even Ford's own Explorer Platinum. As demand dwindled, used prices dropped sharply. Today, the MKT already struggles to fetch strong resale numbers, and by 2026, many will be essentially worthless. Fleet sales made things worse. Many MKTs were sold to livery companies as airport shuttles and limousines, meaning high-mileage examples flood the market. These vehicles are often worn out, poorly maintained, and avoided by private buyers. Why will the Lincoln MKT be worth nothing? Because it failed to stand out in any meaningful way. It was unattractive, unreliable, and overshadowed by better choices. By 2026, most MKTs will either be auctioned off for pennies or scrapped entirely, cementing its place as one of Lincoln's least successful models. Number 1. Maserati Ghibli. The Maserati Ghibli entered the market with the promise of Italian luxury and performance at a more attainable price point. On the surface, it offered sleek styling, a prestigious badge, and a sporty image. But beneath the glamour, the Ghibli has proven to be one of the most disappointing luxury sedans of its era. By 2026, its resale value will be virtually non-existent. The problems start with reliability. The Ghibli's twin-turbocharged V6 engines, while exciting on paper, have been plagued by issues such as oil leaks, cooling system failures, and electrical gremlins. The cost to fix these problems is astronomical compared to the car's resale value. Add in expensive maintenance intervals, where even routine services can run into the thousands. And ownership becomes financially unsustainable once warranties expire. The transmission, supplied by ZF, is generally solid, but when paired with Maserati's electronics and drive modes, it has been known to suffer from software issues that impact drivability. Suspension components and brakes also wear faster than average, and replacements are shockingly expensive. Owners often find themselves staring down repair bills that exceed the car's market worth. Then there's depreciation. Luxury sedans already lose value quickly, but the Ghibli plummets faster than most because it lacks the long-term reputation of rivals like Mercedes, BMW, or Audi. Buyers are wary of its reliability problems, and dealers struggle to move used examples. It's not uncommon to see lightly used Ghiblis selling for less than half their original sticker price within just a few years. By 2026, early models will be bottomed out, fetching almost nothing. Interior quality has also been criticized. While the leather and trim look nice at first, closer inspection reveals parts borrowed from much cheaper Fiat Chrysler models, undermining the luxury image. Infotainment systems lagged behind competitors, and reliability issues with electronics further tarnish the ownership experience. Why will the Maserati Ghibli be worth nothing? Because it combines the worst traits of luxury car ownership: high maintenance costs, poor reliability, and catastrophic depreciation. Buyers drawn in by its styling and badge quickly learn the harsh truth. By 2026, most used Ghiblis will be found on auction blocks and salvage yards, selling for pennies on the dollar. And there you have it, 10 cars that are on a fast track to being worth almost nothing by 2026. Each of these models carries a mix of problems: high maintenance costs, poor reliability, weak demand, or simply a lack of appeal in today's market. While some looked promising when new, time has revealed their flaws, and depreciation has taken care of the rest. The lesson here is simple. Not every car with a luxury badge or flashy design is destined to hold value. In fact, many vehicles lose their worth faster than you'd expect, leaving owners stuck with expensive repairs on cars no one wants to buy. Knowing which models are likely to crash in value helps you make smarter choices and avoid being left with a vehicle that's more of a burden than a blessing. So before you buy, do your research. Sometimes the best car isn't the newest or the most stylish. It's the one that will still be worth something tomorrow.